I think that we can and should aggressively, across the board, deal with waste management. Because absent that, I disagree with Bill on the fossil fuel industry operating in some homogeneous fashion, because I was part of the United States Climate Action Partnership during my time at Shell, which advocated a cap and trade system and actually helped design the cap and trade system that went up to Waxman and Markey until the process of the Congress created an unsupportable bill. And the Senate didn't even take it up. And the House barely passed it because it was unworkable in its design versus what was presented to them when it was originally designed. So I'm not opposed to climate change advocacy, but I don't think you get there through rhetoric. You get there through action.
Well, one way to get there is to internalize the cost of fossil fuels. We currently use the atmosphere as an unpriced sewer, and that would mean raising the price of fossil fuels and perhaps affecting fossil fuel company profits, et cetera. You're head of a company called Citizens for Affordable Energy. If we start to internalize that waste, prices may go up.
And I think that's an affordable proposition because we're healthier, we drive more fuel-efficient vehicles, et cetera, and we shift away from the internal combustion engine. If we cannot get off the internal combustion engine with all the technology that we have available to us, shame on us. And so I'm a strong advocate of moving away from the internal combustion engine, which eliminates 40% of the oil we consume. But getting support for that, it is pricier in the beginning until we reach the tipping point of scale manufacturing. But whether it's battery cars or hydrogen fuel cells or public transportation, we don't need internal combustion engines any longer than it takes to transition away from them. That would be a big step forward.
Bill McKibben?
Well, I mean, the reason that we haven't made that transition is not because we lack the technology. It's because the fossil fuel industry has made sure that we keep the price of fossil fuel artificially low. This is the only industry in the world that doesn't have to pay to take out its waste. And they have defended that right zealously for a very long time. They were the biggest contributors to this last election cycle, just like the one before. And most of that money, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce was the biggest contributor in the 2010 election cycle, busily defending against any serious legislation on climate. They went 93% of their campaign donations to climate deniers. We need to face once and for all the fact that we've got to now keep carbon in the ground, that we cannot be doing what we're doing. So, I mean, think, for example, about what Shell did in, 7 or 8 years ago. It looked around at the fact that global warming was melting the Arctic, and instead of saying we need to transition into becoming a renewable energy company, they said this is a great opportunity to go up and apply for permits to drill in this melting Arctic so we can get some more carbon out of it. In fact, Shell sold off its renewable energy divisions in the last part of the last decade. That's the kind of stuff that we just can't keep doing. And saying that one can't connect in one's mind carbon and the changes going around on the planet now, it just isn't acceptable anymore. The world's scientists have made that connection in profound and deep ways. They do it over and over again. There's a story on the front page of the Washington Post today from the Kevin Trenberth at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration saying, very bad news, that all our, the series of new studies on water in the atmosphere showing that we can expect results from global warming to come in at the very top range, the worst estimates of what we've been going on. This just gets worse and worse, and that's why there's this movement starting to build. We managed to have the biggest civil disobedience action in 30 years last year about any issue. 1,253 people who went to jail to stop, at least for a while, that Keystone pipeline that would have poured as much oil out of the tar sands of Canada as the new automobile mileage regulations would save. No, we can't keep making these trade-offs anymore. We've got to get serious, finally. And that means continuing to build that kind of popular uprising